Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things OU football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360-817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month. There's also a free trial option, and you'll find all of my regular recruiting content being posted on there during the weekend, as recruiting keeps rolling on. Also, this podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. I'm also appearing on the Horns Down podcast YouTube channel with Chris with a K and Jason Watkins. We'll be discussing OU season, spring game, off-season stuff, as well as some recruiting thrown in. So please like and subscribe to that YouTube channel or the Sooners 360 YouTube channel as well. You'll find those podcasts streamed on my channel on YouTube. This is episode 118, Future Freaks Inbound. And as usual, we're going to head to the recruiting news. So the first thing is there's no new commits. Not a big surprise. OU still working through their recruiting class. And obviously, Brent's established policy of commit to OU and not take any visits is kind of playing a role there as well. So, because we're still relatively early in the process, OU still establishing official visit dates. We'll talk about a couple of official visit dates at the end of this podcast. Couple of interesting ones, key ones set up. And then, so there's no new commit news there. There's nobody really off the board that I thought OU was in sort of OU's top 50 player kind of target list or something along those lines. If you're on Patreon, you have access to my March prediction on who I think OU will sign. I've kind of got a big class there. Some other sites are going with smaller classes. I'm not quite sure how that's all going to work, but we'll see what happens. But if you have access to my Patreon, you can take a look at the what I predict in terms of the players I think OU's focusing on for this recruiting class, or at least as of March 1st, what I thought. So the big recruiting news other than the Future Freaks event, and we'll get to that, is obviously Jaden O'Neal has officially relocated to Mustang, Oklahoma to play his senior year of high school football. For those not familiar, Jaden O'Neal was playing at Narbonne High School in California. Narbonne had this whole forfeit issue occur. Now I think they've also received a penalty for transfers where they can't be in the playoffs next year. The things turned into kind of a toxic he said, she said. So I think Jaden decided it was just better for his senior year to make sure he could play every game because he lost nearly half of his junior year due to these forfeits, and to sort of get away from that atmosphere. And obviously, he chose Mustang, Oklahoma. He will be now able to come to I imagine he'll be a frequent attendee to OU spring practice. He'll be at whatever junior events, whatever 2026 events occur. I wouldn't be surprised if he's around for every official visit weekend in some ad hoc fashion before his own official visit on June 20th. What this does to the Jaden O'Neal, Bo Bentley debate, I'm not sure, but obviously, he's clearly indicating that he wants to be part of the OU class. He wants to be the ringleader. He wants to be the quarterback. He just attended the Rivals LA camp and was one of the top gold performers there. Based upon a review I saw on Rivals, it was basically Ryder Lyons, Brady Edmonds, and Jaden O'Neal were the top 326 quarterbacks at that event. And Lyons on Rivals is like number 3 in the nation, and I think Edmonds is like number 7. So Jaden was just right behind those guys. And he's obviously got Elite 11 coming up. Also getting a gold ball MVP trophy at that event was Daniel Odom, the wide receiver verbal from California that OU has. And apparently he looked fantastic at the event. he's jumped up into the top 100 of Rivals rankings. So good day in LA for the OU guys. Bo Bentley will be at the Future Freaks event. I'm not sure how this all is going to shake out. I just know OU can't keep them both. There's no way Georgia and Ohio State both want Bo Bentley and both have quarterback gaps in their recruiting class. If OU was to go the Bo Bentley direction, Jaden O'Neal is going to end up at Georgia, Ohio State, or somewhere else. He's too talented. There's no way you're going to pull off this 2 QB thing. It might have worked at some point before Bo Bentley blew up at the Navy All-American game and everybody started looking at his film. But now he's too talented. He's a very he's now the on-3 number 50 player in the nation. You're not going to get him. And Rivals and 247 has Jaden O'Neal as like a top 100 player. That's just not going to work. So as I've mentioned on a couple of podcasts recently, collaboratory podcasts, OU just needs to make a decision here and make it quick to allow the other kid to make a choice and allow the quarterback of the class to be the quarterback of the class and be that established leader, because OU needs that guy to Pied Piper this class to conclusion. Because as I'm about to mention, they're getting a lot more big names on campus this weekend. It would be nice if Jaden, I think Jaden O'Neal probably makes the most sense. He's been the one connected to OU the longest. But that's an Arbuckle and Nagy decision, I would think. If Arbuckle and Brent Venables are struggling with this decision, they now have a new scouting resource, someone they could get another another sort of objective opinion from, because Jim Nagy doesn't really know these guys as well as obviously Arbuckle and Brent does. So that leads me to Jim Nagy, and I haven't had a chance to really talk about what I feel like OU's GM might do for OU's recruiting efforts. Again, I put this on Patreon. If you're on the Patreon site, you've already read this article. I think Nagy's a huge value add for high school recruiting. The portal stuff is pretty obvious. Jim Nagy knows how to scout and evaluate the entire scope of college football. And if after spring he determines that OU needs a tight end or a cornerback or a linebacker, he's going to have the contacts and he's going to have the ability to scout and provide data and what I would call player dossiers to use a fancy word, to Brent. And let's just say Nate Dreiling says, I need another linebacker due to losing Jaron Canick to tight end and losing Lewis Carter. I need another linebacker in the room. He has the ability. I think this is where Jim Nagy will be able to identify weaknesses in the roster and proactively identify players OU should pursue in the portal. So I think that's the portal stuff I think is pretty obvious. But I think Jim Nagy has a big role to play in high school recruiting. I think, probably we're going to see the NCAA relax in scouting evaluations, that will allow scouts to go in person, evaluate players, not talk to them or communicate with them, but be in the stands and evaluate. And I think Jim Nagy is going to build a scouting staff that will be cross-trained on both high school and college players. And I think that staff will be able to fine-tune and help OU with their evaluations, identify who they should be focusing on, and provide better data and another data stream, more data points about players and identifying players' weaknesses and strengths. But where I think Nagy can help OU the most is I simply have this idea that on an official visit, a player has a certain amount of time with Brent, and then they go meet OU's football GM, and that football GM with his Super Bowl rings, maybe on his desk, pulls out a scouting dossier on that high school player. And with the player's handlers, parents, agents, whatever his advisee group is, he's able to lay out what a professional NFL person thinks of their skill level, thinks of their ability, and project a plan where OU is going to take them from the high school guy to the college guy to the pro player that they want to be. So I think this is where Nagy can really help OU's recruiting message. He can really focus on the NIL deals and the evaluations, allow Brent to focus on selling the program, allow Brent to focus on the value adds OU has, the less transactional part of it, the relationship part, which Brent is best at, and allow Nagy to focus on the more transactional, and also allow Nagy to just say, look, we've evaluated you. This is your ceiling. This is your ceiling as a college player to get to the NFL. This is how we're going to take you there. This is why our system is best. This is why our coaches are best. And we're going to continue evaluating you and giving you honest, professional evaluations of where you are. After 2 years of being a Sooner player, I'm going to meet with you, give you an evaluation of where we think you are, where you're going to go in your potential third year and fourth year or fifth year, depending upon the player's progression path. So I think the Jim Nagy hire was a complete slam dunk home run. And I think OU will be able to use him and his staff to greatly assist high school recruiting. And I think that's kind of being overlooked a little bit, is that Nagy, has a process and has a procedure, something with some rigor around it that allowed him to evaluate all of college football to every level to find the players he wanted for the Senior Bowl. I think in the same way, he will bring that same sort of rigor and process to high school evaluations to assist the coaches. The coach may say, I really like this guy on film. Send it over to Nagy's scouting team. They may have 4 or 5 different guys review that film and come back and say, well, we really like it. We should pursue this guy. Or, well, here's where we see the positives and the negatives. Let's talk about whether we pursue this guy. And I think it will always be a conversational blend between those. And it might literally be, a dossier handed back, a digital dossier handed back to Bill Bedenbaugh that says, okay, we see, Bill, why you want to offer this guy, but here's the issues we have. So let's talk about it. And they can talk about it and decide whether that's someone they want to pursue. And I'm hoping that's the model that Nagy's going to implement. Sounds like from the talks with Brent, the interviews with Brent and Jim Nagy on Wednesday, that's what they're shooting for. So I think the value add here is not – everyone's focusing on the portal side, which I think it makes a lot of sense, and focusing on the valuations and the NIL side of the current roster. Again, that makes perfect sense based upon Nagy's background. But I think there's a more value add on the high school recruiting side than folks have been initially projecting. So let's just talk about the big topic of the weekend, and it's Future Freaks. I'm recording this Friday night because I wanted to make sure that some of the players I talked about, I wanted to make sure that they were probably visiting. Again, some guys might not make it in. Some names could slip in that I haven't been tracking. There are really good lists on multiple of the paywall sites. I'm using names that I've gotten from public interviews and from the players themselves saying that they're going to be there. So it's an impressive list of guys. So we'll start. I'm going to give you 15 of them. And the last couple of lists I saw, there might be as many as 40 players on campus. The 2028 group, it is hard to know where those players will end up. There's a small group of them. 2 of them, I'm going to mention one name, and there's another name I know that have OU offers already and are going to be big-time OU targets. The other names, they just played their freshman year. It's hard to tell where they're tracking, but OU's brought in a nice group. OU is bringing in a lot more 2026 kids than I'd anticipated. Kind of a lot of star power there as well. The 2027 group is loaded. There's upwards of 20 kids probably going to visit that have OU offers that could represent. If I could take 10 guys from the 2027 group and put them in the OU class, I would be ecstatic. So there's just a lot of talent. It's a fantastic group. Some of the 5-star stuff isn't quite figured out yet, but there are probably going to be 10 to 15 kids are going to end up with a top 30 rating by at least one service that will be on campus this weekend. That's kind of the 5-star bar I use. I mean, and that's just pretty impressive. So let's just start with, I'm giving you 15 names, and I'll give them, kind of go over them slowly and give you some details of them and kind of talk about and talk about them. So one of the first, I think one of them, and an important name, and he's not a 5-star, but Drew Evers is going to be back on campus, the 2026 offensive tackle, offensive guard from Texas. He's a top 200 player. He's interesting because if you can get, OU was doing well with Drew Evers at one point, slipped a little bit. He's back on campus, long relationship with Bill. If OU can get back in the mix here, get an official visit and start making some movement, Drew Evers represents one of those guys who could be a right tackle for OU possibly. And that just means that OU just has to find one left tackle in this class. So Drew Evers is visiting again. Like I said, he's got he's top 200, but his offer list is pretty elite. So I think, he could actually end up with a good senior year to be higher ranked than that. He was in the top 75, top 50 at one point. Things are kind of shaken up a little bit. So, but I think, he's 6'4", 290, 285, could easily play at 300, 310, and could easily be an offensive guard or a right tackle. So we offer OU some flexibility there. So that's a 26 name. Then I'm gonna jump around a little bit here. So we're gonna go to a 2027 name, brand new name for me. Jaden Miles, a running back from Louisiana, 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a 2027 player, Rivals top 100, physical back, just running through tackles on film, just grinding out. Shows good speed, good agility. But he's a power back. He's got some power back skills to him. The next name is a 2028 name, the only 2028 name I'm going to mention in the top 15. And it's a brand new offer from Jacksonville, Florida. His name is Asher Giotto. I think that's right, or Giotto. He's 6'5", 240 as a high school freshman. His film is absurd for a high school freshman. If he continues developing like this, he is a top 20 5-star defensive end. And for OU to offer him and get him on campus so quickly is a great sign. He's only the second defensive end offer OU's made. The other one is Marcus Fakatu from California, who started OU summer camp last year, who was 6'7", 255 as a high school freshman, just ridiculous. And he's gotten offers from everybody. He projects, I think, to be a top 30, 5-star kind of guy. So OU's gotten connections with 2 elite defensive ends for 2028, which seems kind of ridiculous, but it's just a great sign. Now, we know Emmett Jones isn't going to be left behind. So 2027 wide receiver Antavius Ellis from the Dallas area is visiting. He's a 2027 wide receiver, top 75 in the country, probably the number 2 wide receiver in Texas now with some of the reclassification action that's gone on, with Trenton Yancey from Duncanville being the number 1 guy. Then we have a 5-star Rivals player for 2027. I mean, he's ranked in the top 20. He's probably the number 2 quarterback they have for 2027, and that's Peyton Houston from Shreveport Evangel, who OU, he was in OU summer camp last year, along with Trey Taylor, the quarterback from Chicago, who's dropped OU from his top 5. He's kind of moved on to go focus on some other schools. So Peyton Houston is OU's only 2027 quarterback offer who's still actively looking at OU. So lots of schools making a move at Peyton. Peyton looked fantastic at the Dallas Rivals event that recently occurred, that multiple OU recruiting sites have reported on. He looks fantastic. He had a huge sophomore year. I think he threw for nearly 700 yards in a game. So OU making the connection here and establishing whether OU is still in play is a big deal this weekend. He's a 5-star potential. He's the quarterback you want for 2027 to keep that lineage of quarterbacks going. Then we have Brandon Arrington from California. He's a 2026 player. OU would like him at cornerback. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 180 pounds, but he's posting ridiculous track times, 10.5, 10.4, 100-meter times, legit times. He's a 5-star. He's like a top 15 player in the nation. He's been high on OU last fall. OU lost a little momentum. This is a chance for them to recapture that and see where they legitimately are. An elite cornerback in a class where I've mentioned OU struggles in finding cornerbacks and who's really their top targets. If OU could keep in this Arrington battle, get an official visit scheduled, and maybe push and win this battle at the end, to add a 5-star cornerback in this class would be massive, just in terms of the fact there's no regional in-state kids or Texas kids that are just really bubbling up. If one 5-star cornerback wasn't good enough, we have a second one visiting from 2026, Jordan Edmonds from Sprayberry, Georgia, which is in the Marietta area around where Trey Sermon is from. He's a 5-star, top 30 player in the nation composite, 6'2", 180 pounds. Again, just an elite big corner. I love OU's cornerback recruiting under Jay Valai. I think he's done a good job building the talent. I like the 3 guys that are going through spring. But a 5-star elite corner has been maybe the white whale for Jay Valai since his tenure at OU. Tristan Haynes is obviously very talented. So is Jacoby Johnson, but Edmonds and Arrington are just ranked in just a slightly different class. Now, an interesting name at defensive tackle is Damian Winfield. He's a top 100 defensive tackle from Texas, probably the best defensive tackle in Texas this year. 6'4", 290, 300, explosive, quick, agile for his size. Texas really wants him. This is OU's chance to get in this battle and see where they are. Also at defensive tackle for 2026, Tavion Branch, who might be, to use a line from the Sooner Scoop podcast, he might be this year's Wilson, the freshman defensive tackle, who looks fantastic. He might be Wilson. He might be that guy. He's from Pennsylvania. He's got a Penn State offer. If you know anything about Penn State, their front 4 talent is excellent. A lot of NFL players. So Branch, I think, is criminally underrated and probably should be somewhere in the top 150 range. He's 6'4", 6'5", 285 pounds, quick, agile, just that perfect big 3 technique that fits in this OU defense. And a similar guy is Brian Harris from Jacksonville, Florida. He's 6'4", 6'5", 285 pounds, was a Maryland Verbal, decommitted. Everybody in the nation's offering him. He just dominated a recent Rivals camp. And again, he's quick, fast, big, kind of reminds me, he's again, they're not David Stone-like, but both Branch and Harris are sort of that bigger, slightly longer, mobile 3 tech that you'd like to have in this scheme that makes this scheme really hum. So those are 3 defensive tackles right there that if all 3 wanted to verbal over this weekend, I think Todd Bates would take all 3 of these and then fill in the last spot with Taj Overton and or Valdon Sone. So back to 2027, Brian Swanson, another star of last year's summer camp. OU's summer camp last year was so productive for them in terms of recruits, especially on the offensive line for both 26 and 27. And Brian Swanson's at South Oak Cliff. He could be the best offensive tackle in Texas for 27. He's in the top 100 right now by 2 services. He could easily move into the top 50, fringe 5-star kind of talent. Speaking of a five-star talent, Honor Fa-Alave Johnson from California is visiting, according to everybody. He's an athlete, running back, 6'2", 6'1", 185 pounds. Again, legit track time, five-star athlete in 2027, according to multiple services. Interesting to see if DeMarco, if running backs where OU focuses, and if they can make some moves there, and DeMarco could make him OU's next five-star running back, which would be fantastic. OU's obviously had success with California running backs before. So staying in 2027, but back to Texas, Taylon Mayo is a 6'4", 170-pound cornerback from Louisville who will be on campus. Right now, he's a five-star Rivals player, top 25 in the nation. Then we have a wide receiver. Again, Emmett Jones not going to sit back and not have big-time wide receivers visiting. From 2027, Trey Moore from Pflugerville in Texas. He's 6'3", 185, 190 pounds, and he is a Rivals top 40 player in the nation. And then we have Demarion Johnson from Tyler, Texas. If Brian Swanson's not the best tackle in Texas, Demarion Johnson is. He's 6'7", 300 pounds. Rivals has him as a top 40 player in the nation. So realistically, the two top tackles in Texas will be on campus this weekend for 2027. So OU obviously fighting for Felix Ojo, got Foje and Fasusi, who may end up being the two best tackles from Texas in that year. And OU's already got the two top tackles in Texas. I think I know Swanson camped. I'm not sure if Demarion Johnson camped as well. But, they summer camped at OU, have been coached by Bill, and now they're back for OU's big future event for 2027. So just a fantastic job of getting the big-time players back on campus. So that's 15 names. I could go 15 more, but I think that gives you a sense of the guys, of the players here. Again, I think of the players I listed, I think there's 6 or 7 of the 15 guys I listed. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys who could be 5 stars, which is at a ridiculously high rate. And a lot of these guys, and everyone I mentioned in that list, save for Drew Evers, who could easily move it in the top 100, looks like a top 100 player in the nation in either 27, 26, or 28. So I could have listed probably another 10 guys that are going to be top 100 type kids, depending if they'll come on campus. So just a huge job by OU. I'll have a follow-up quick update again on Sunday, just to talk about some players that once they confirm for social media, I can give you an updated list of additional guys that were there. So that's my goal Sunday night, to record that. So just some other official news, and 3 interesting guys with official visits scheduled. The first one is Celesi Moa. He is a top 40 athlete safety from Utah who is going to be on campus June 6th. So when you combine Caden Hall and Celesi Moa, that's Brandon Hall getting 2 top 40 players in the nation at safety to visit. So his recruiting efforts and coaching efforts are not going unnoticed. So just really good there. The safety group's becoming really interesting when you add Moa into the mix as well. With Caden Hall having his last visit June 20th, Celesi Moa on the table, and you've got some interesting players from Texas, and some interesting guys from Oklahoma as well. So the safety group is, I think OU maybe has 2 spots, and I got 6 names that look really good at the safety position in terms of rankings or just their film for OU. Then continuing the offensive line chatter, Deacon Schmidt, the big Colorado tackle. I'm not sure he's a left tackle. He is definitely a right tackle. He's visiting on June 6th as well. He's a 4-star composite right now. He could move up as well. Left tackle seems to be the odd spot. I do think OU has an in-state option if Felix Ojo just was to make a Texas commitment or an Ohio State commitment before he visits Norman. It's Daniel McMorris from Norman North. He's 6'5", 270. His film's really good. He is an athletic left tackle. He's got some punch to him, he's got some athletic. He's very athletic, but he's also got some physical punch to him. So if OU is to miss out on Ojo, I think taking Daniel McMorris as your left tackle, and you've now built some depth now with Foji, Avery Dent, Baklenko, Fasusi. You've now got some tackle depth. So if you were to pick up Schmidt or Evers, or maybe Chancellor Barkley from Florida, you've got right tackles. So you could then potentially pick up a player like Daniel McMorris. And project is too strong a term. He just needs to add weight. There's a chance he could have just unreal senior film, because his junior film, I mean, it's really good. He has some punch. His punch is just very violent. He can tell he's lean. He's a lean guy, but there's definitely some potential there. And then another guy who would fit in and on the OU's interior recruiting, Breck College from IMG, a 6'5", 320-pound offensive guard. OU's got a bunch of guards. They've already got Will Conroy, Noah Best is also – Will Conroy's verbal. Noah Best hasn't verbaled yet, but OU seems to lead. They've got Toa Katoa, Vincent Johnson, Pulelite Primus, Deacon Schmidt could also play inside. And College is at IMG. He's a 4-star composite, top 300 type guy, really good guard. He's visiting for OU's Crimson Combine. He's not the big star at IMG. That's Kenny Papeye, I think is how you say his name. OU's doesn't appear to be making a move there. He's probably one of the top 5 offensive tackles in the country, along with Emmanuel Hennecho, who doesn't look like he's going to visit OU, Felix Ojo, and probably Cody Green out in California. Although he's not looked at OU much, so I'm not really sure if he's a guard or a tackle. Just haven't watched his film. But College is visiting early, so that'll be interesting. OU hasn't made any real recent 2026 offers. I covered most everybody in the last podcast. But they did make 2 offers for 2027. The first one is an interesting offer. It's Cooper Hackett from Oklahoma, Fort Gibson. First OU offer from Fort Gibson since Teddy Lehman, I believe. I haven't double-checked that, but multiple podcasts have been touting that. He looks really good on film. Now, remember, he's a high school sophomore. He's 6'7", 250. He's lean, but he's super athletic, very physical, got some meanness and punch to him. Huge frame to fill out. Wouldn't shock me if he's not a composite 4-star by the time he's a high school by the time he's a rising senior. Just a good offer. And for in-state to have offensive tackles or like this, as well as, I mentioned how good it is that in-state had defensive linemen that OU could offer, like Taj Overton or Joseph Graves, CJ Nixon, that kind of thing. So same thing on the offensive line. If OU can have offensive line offers in-state, that's huge. And then they offered a defensive tackle from Warner Robins, Georgia. That's big-time legacy high school program in South Georgia that has produced any number of big-time kids. And they've offered Elijah Patmon. He's a defensive tackle. I don't know where OU is with this. Obviously, Todd Bates and Chavis are going to continue knocking on the door of elite talent in Georgia, and I just keep hoping at some point they'll knock it down. So that's your recruiting update for this week. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you choose. And if you're on my YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a rating for your podcast or leave a thumbs up on YouTube. And remember, I encourage you guys to visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 to subscribe for more recruiting content on the Sooners 360 on Patreon. That Patreon site keeps this podcast free. So please give us a chance. Like I said, there's a free 30-day trial that you can go to. It's only $2 a month. That's far cheaper than any of the other paywall sites, and you'll find good recruiting information there on a weekly basis. So thanks, everyone, and I'll be back Sunday night with maybe a mini update on Future Freaks. One last thing, sorry, of content-wise, don't expect a lot of verbals coming out of this weekend. OU may offer some kids for 2027 in-state or 2028 in-state who might be inclined to commit early. I don't know that they will, but I wouldn't anticipate any verbal commitments this weekend unless something shocking happens. And again, I didn't think Daniel Odom was going to commit after junior day, and he did. Obviously, he had connections to Jaden O'Neal that played a role there. But this will be some guy's third or fourth visit back on OU's campus. So anything's possible, but don't anticipate anybody committing. All right, that's really the last word. Thanks, everyone.